This is the end of year 2020, 2021 Director of Special Education Training. We have several things to cover. I've already done one training on indicator 11 and 13, but we will sort of talk a little bit about that as well, because there have been a lot of questions come through that. Again, just want to remind you, we are recording. I think I have to say that for legal purposes. And I put on the screen that I'm showing, it says, I'm going to try something new today. It says go to pollev/Amy Patterson 428, or you can text, and I'm going to try just a little poll. I'm going to try it, see how it goes. Y'all are my guinea pigs. And then if it goes well, we'll incorporate more of that into future trainings, because it really does help when we're in a situation like this where everybody is at their separate computer, scattered all across the state. It really does help to get feedback and, be able to kind of get a feel for how people are doing. So again, if you have questions, feel free to ask those. Put them in the chat, raise your hand, however we want to handle that. So however you want to do that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Again, this is the end of year 2020, 2021 training for directors of special education for reporting and data collection. I'm going to turn off my camera now, and we're going to get started. So give me a second, I'm juggling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to talk about indicators 11 and 13. We're going to talk about personnel and placement, which has kind of been an afterthought for most people, including me, for the last few years, but we've kind of taken it, not really a hit on it, but we've had to explain a lot of things because our data has been inaccurate, because it is an afterthought, and a lot of people haven't really, I don't know if they've been confused by the input methods or what, by the way it goes in GMAP, but I just want to kind of focus on that a little bit. We're going to talk about behavior, exiting, and we're going to talk a little bit about what child count's going to look like next year. I sent out this PowerPoint, mostly this PowerPoint. There are a few extra slides in it now that weren't when I sent it. But I sent out this PowerPoint along with the end of year reporting manual and the a manual for personnel. And then I sent out a spreadsheet that goes with personnel that I'm going to talk about in a minute. So I sent all those out yesterday afternoon. So you should have those. If anybody, wants to take a look at those and has questions about those, I'll be happy to cover that as well. Okay, some of you have already answered these questions. This is awesome. Okay, so if you could go anywhere for vacation, where would you go? It's getting, it's summer, and I don't know about you guys, but I am so ready to get out of this state because, we've been here in our homes or, whatever, stuck for a while. So I'm ready for vacation. So I'm curious where you guys would go for vacation. Most people are saying the beach. Not too many people want to go camping or hiking. Some people said another country. I'd be afraid to get on an airplane right now, but other than that, I think that'd be awesome. Not too many of you are saying Disney World. That's my place. That's where I go every chance I get. This is interesting. Some of you said you would stay home. That's even more interesting. Kind of chill at home. I guess that'd be good. I've got kids who don't know how to chill, so I got to keep them busy. All right. So about half of you would go to the beach. About a fourth of you would go to another country. And the rest, Disney World, stay at home, or go camping and hiking. So I think a lot of people are going to be going to the beach this year. And that's awesome because it's time to get out, go do things. Okay. So we can come back to that later, I think. All right, so let's talk about reporting. This is the reporting dates that I always provide. So June 30th, we have several things due. Indicators 11 and 13 are due. I think several people have already started uploading those. I know some of you are already out of school already. So there's no, I mean, if you want to go ahead and submit everything, you know, now, that's not a problem at all. So that is due June 30th, along with personnel data, which is being submitted in GMAP. And then the Safe Schools report, I'm going to show you where you sign off on that. So the directors of special ed have to sign off on that for the students with disabilities. And then the Safe Schools coordinators have to sign off for all students. And then the special education exiting data is due July 31st. Again, if you want to submit that early, that's not a problem. If you guys have been out of school for a week and you've had time to clean up all your exiting data, that's awesome. If you've got summer school and need to wait until July 31st, that's fine too. I get that.
Amy, I think indicator 12 is due on June 30th as well.
Indicator 12 is due June 30th as well? Okay, thank you. So. I will put that in here with this for the next time I send it out. Thanks. Okay. So indicator 11 and 13. Now, I've already talked about that. That's where you can review the training, the recording of the training at this link right here. We're going to get it on our website, on the OCO website at some point. It's not there yet. I'm trying to wrap up a few things. Sorry. One thing that I did want to point out about that, this year, all students for whom you have obtained consent during this school year need to be sort of part of the included. So if you're choosing 10%, even if you obtained consent last week for a student, you need to include, if that's one of the students that's chosen in the 10%, that student needs to be included. Now, here's the thing. You will not have had time to complete the evaluation on that student, and that's fine. So you're just going to leave, if it says, has it been completed in the 60 school days, you're just going to leave that blank. You're not going to put yes or no. It will look like you don't have 100% completion, and that's okay because you really don't. But what we're going to do is review it next year and see that it's been done. So it's okay because we're not going to review it until you've had time to complete that at the beginning of next school year. So if the student moves in the meantime, we'll deal with that as well. But I just want to let you know that it's going to look like you didn't reach 100%, and that's okay. So, and just leave it blank. You don't have to say yes or no. Next year, I'm going to put not applicable or not completed, or I don't know, I'll put something in there so that's a choice as well, so we know. Any other questions about indicator 11 or 13, or maybe 12 since Sylvia's on here? I don't know if I can answer them, but. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
I just said, are there any questions?
Oh, okay, yeah, no, I don't have any.
You're good. No.
I thought I was answering one.
No, I said if anybody has questions about indicator 12, I wouldn't be able to answer them, but you might.
Yeah, feel free to email me if you have questions about 12.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so personnel and placement. So this, we began submitting that in GMAP during the 2017-18 school year. Previous to that, I was sending out a spreadsheet, which is actually the spreadsheet I sent out yesterday. And people were submitting that spreadsheet back to me in the past. This year, or starting when we started doing this in GMAP, you don't have to send that back to me. Please don't send it back to me, actually, because I'm probably not going to even know I got it. But that spreadsheet is more just to help sort of organize your data and store it so that you have a place to put it, because the data is as of December 1. So I'd send that out around the December 1 child count. I just sent it out again. It also has a little more explanation than they have in GMAP on how to do this. So this is all special education teachers, paraprofessionals, and related service providers employed or contract to work with students with disabilities ages 3 through 21. So personnel. So this is how we report this. We report as fully certified, not fully certified. For teachers and related services, and then qualified or not qualified for paraprofessionals. And we report that by FTE. So the percent of time each person that you have on your staff that works specifically with students with disabilities, receiving special education and related services. And you're going to round that to the nearest 10th. Now, if you have questions about how to define certified or not certified, qualified or not qualified, that information is in that personnel manual that I sent out yesterday. So I suggest maybe you take a look at that, and then if you have other questions about it, feel free to contact me. It is confusing, and I understand it's confusing. So just do the best you can, and ask questions when you're not sure. The biggest thing we see, the biggest issue we see, is people, when they put in the data, don't read it completely in GMAP. It must be confusing the way it's laid out in GMAP, because they put in the number of not certified where the number of certified should go, and vice versa. And so it looks like they've hired 100 not certified teachers and 2 certified teachers, or whatever. Those are just numbers I made up. So it's kind of backwards from the way it should be, and that really kind of messes up our numbers. So here's an example to help understand the FTE. So if a teacher works with students with disabilities for 3 hours out of a 6-hour day, that's a 0.5 FTE. If they work for 4 hours out of a 6-hour day, that's 2/3 of a day, so 0.67 FTE. And then if you have both of those, then you add those two together and get 1.17. So it might be, for teachers, it's probably, for special education teachers, it's probably easier. But when you're looking at related services personnel, it can get a little bit confusing. So this is what the personnel report looks like. I'm not sure exactly what it looks like in GMAP. We tried to make this look like that. I hope it does. So notice the first one, for children ages 3 through 5 who are fully certified. So the top one, you just put in that FTE. And then the one beneath, ages 3 through 5 who are not fully certified. So you put in that. So just please try to, be vigilant when you're putting these in and make sure you're putting them in the right location. And I'm going to try to follow up on that. I don't usually get the data until like a week before it's due, but I'm going to try to follow up on that so that if I see any strange things happening, I can follow up with the districts on that. So, and then placement. I sent out, I didn't change the screenshot because I forgot it was here, honestly. But I sent out, in the spreadsheet I sent out yesterday, this explains a little bit better. So this, I took out the words basic and preschool. So ages 3 through 21 is all students with IEPs, who have been determined eligible for ages 3 through 21. All students who have been determined eligible for students ages 3 through 21. For preschool, where it says preschool, now the preschool is a subset of the basic, but it's really only age-based. So if it's a 5-year-old in kindergarten, you include that student. If it's a 4-year-old in kindergarten, you include that student. If it's a 6-year-old in preschool, don't include that student. So it's really only age-based. And then for number 2, it's only students in grades K through 12 or K through 14. So it do not include preschool students in these. So when it says preschool students in grade K, that means 4 or 5-year-olds in kindergarten. So, any questions about that? So this is open now. I've had several people ask me questions about it. It's open now in GMAP. So feel free to, if you have questions, ask me. I might need to go to the GMAP people for clarification because I don't have access to that, but I can, ask me and I will be happy to follow up with any questions you have. Okay, behavior in safe schools. So, Kentucky State Reporting Safe Schools. So that's how you get to the report. The Director of Special Education, I would recommend that you have access to this and run it pretty regularly. So you're going to run the Safe Schools report. And if you want to know which students had, the way it works now is if the student had an IEP at the time of the behavior incident, then the student will be included on the report for that incident. If they had an IEP earlier but don't now, let's say they don't have an IEP now, they were released from special education 2 weeks ago, and they have an incident now, they won't be included for that incident. So this shows how to run it, and then you check active special ed at time of incident, and you click extract, run extract.
Amy, do you have a couple questions in the chat?
I'm sorry?
You have a couple questions in the chat, both
Okay.
relate to your slides, 2 slides ahead of this one, I believe, and they want you to explain item 1.
Item 1, back. This one, or no, this one?
I believe so.
Okay. Okay, so item 1, I'm having trouble reading it. Actually, okay. Report as of the most recent child count date, the count of children or youth who reside in or receive services from the district and who are ages 3 through 21 and have been determined eligible for special education by an ARC. So this is any students who ages 3 through 21 and then ages 3 through 5 separately, who have been determined eligible in your district by an ARC. They may not be receiving services, they may be in private school, they may be in homeschool, but these students have been determined eligible for special education services. And then for preschool, it's students ages 3 through 5. So it's any students ages 3 through 5. Even if they would be in kindergarten now, it's ages 3 through 5. I hope that helps.
And they also asked about number 2.
Oh, and number 2. Okay, report the count of students as in question 1 who enrolled in a private parochial. I'm reading this because I can't see it on my other screen, so I have to read it out loud to read it to myself. Or home, elementary, or secondary school. So it's any student who have been determined eligible for special education services in grades K through 12. So if they are in homeschool or in private school, that you have determined them eligible, that would be, and they have to be in grades K through 12. So that's what you would put under basic, under the left column. And then the right column is students who are in grades K or above, so in kindergarten or above, who have been determined eligible that are in homeschool, private school, parochial school. Okay. Did that answer the questions? I'm not sure if I did or not, so. As of December, yes, thank you, Tracy. As of December 1st, 2020. And K gets counted twice, yes. I know that's confusing. I think it's weird too, but it's how we have to report it, so. Okay. So this is as of December 1, 2020. And the personnel is also, excuse me, as of December 1, 2020. So. Wesley, I'm not sure the answer to your question. Can we use March add-on students for preschool numbers? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm reading both questions at the same time. So I'm not sure about your question about the March add-on. I will have to ask that, Wesley, and get back to you. Amber, for your question about preschool only, it actually is, it includes all, it's age-based. If you're talking about number 1, it's age-based. Let me find this, let me find the spreadsheet I sent out yesterday. I think it might help explain it a little bit better. Because I met with Chris Thacker, who is the one that set this up, and he and I kind of went over it. That looks a little weird. What's doing that? Okay, so this, for the above cells, enter students by age, not grade. Does this help? And then to be entered in these cells, students must be in kindergarten or above. Please do not include pre-K students. So does that help explain things a little bit? So it actually shouldn't even say preschool. I took that out. I took out the word preschool and basic. So I think that explains it a little bit better. Okay. All right. Sorry. There we go. Okay, so for Safe Schools, this is how you're going to verify your data. I did a different form this year. I did a different format, but this format will send you an email as long as you have entered your email address accurately when it asks for your email address. Then it will send you a reply saying we've received your confirmation. So, and then you can keep that so you know that we've received it. If you didn't enter your email address correctly, it won't. So you won't get that because it sends it to where you say you need it to send. Okay, things to look for in Safe Schools. We have, I'm not sure if I put this on here or not, but we have a new, as of this year, a new resolution type of in-district removal, INDR. And so if a student gets sent to an alternative school for the rest of the year, that is what, or, for whatever, if a student gets sent to any school other than the school they would normally be attending, then that is the code that needs to be used. And for disciplinary purposes only. That is actually considered for special education, for students with IEPs, that's considered an out-of-school removal. Anytime a student is sent to a school outside of their current school for disciplinary purposes, that's considered an out-of-school removal. And then we also have for IAES, we've had a lot of issues with interim alternative educational setting. And we've added a new code for, not a new code, but a few extra checks for that in Infinite Campus, so that it'll make it easier for us to determine if it was drugs, weapons, or serious bodily injury that sent the student for an IAES. Other things to look for in Safe Schools: long restraints or suspensions, overlapping or duplicate resolutions. So long restraints or suspensions, a restraint is a removal. It's an in-school removal. So if you restrain a student for 3 days, which I know is not happening, but some people put in the wrong code, they might put in the wrong date, whatever, that's going to show up and we're going to see that. So those are the kinds of things you need to be looking for. The conversation I have with a lot of districts is, well, we cleaned up our errors, so we're good. Not necessarily. You want to make sure that your data is accurate. You want to kind of do a gut check. If you see a student who should have been removed for 2 days and you look at it and it's a 100-day removal, you probably want to pay attention to that. So those are things you want to take a look at. So we have data visualizations built in to Infinite Campus. And so this is what it looks like. This will tell count of days. There are all kinds of different visualizations like this. This is the one that I'm showing you because we paid specifically for this one to help districts understand how long a student has been removed. Looking for students who have been removed 10 days or more. So this one actually defaults to a minimum of 8 days. So if a student has been removed for 8 days or more, they will appear on this report. And then it'll show alternative placement was 10 days. Out of school suspension was 8.8 days. So for a total of 18.8. This is not, it doesn't default to special ed, but you can make it default to special ed. Just go over to the right, go to special ed disability and select active and, go over to special ed and select active, or you can select certain disabilities. If you want to check on, OHI students, then you can do that. You can do it by race, by grade, by, all kinds of things. You can, this also has information about, in another view, about like where incidences are happening, what time of day, what day of the week, what month out of the year has the most, those sorts of things. So these are things that I would recommend taking a look at if you see that students with disabilities are getting in trouble, you know, in the cafeteria on Monday mornings because it's a transition issue, then those are things you want to look at. And yeah, so Kim Walters, who is on here, I see, she's kind of the guru around this, so she can answer all kinds of questions about it. This defaults to 8 days removed, but you can change it to 0 days, or you can change it to 10 or whatever. This report is in Infinite Campus. You have to ask your CASES point of contact for the KDE data visualization, and they should give it to you. And it shows up right at the top as a link in the index when you log in to Infinite Campus. There are limited licenses, meaning there are 2,000 statewide, so only 2,000 people can be in at one time. So we just ask that when you're done looking at it, that you log out, so the next person, if somebody else is waiting to get in, they can. But because of that, I think people misunderstand it, and a lot of cases, points of contact don't want to give access to this to a lot of people. But since this was built specifically for special education, you all should have access to it. Yeah, so Kim put in the chat the data visualization link, and then I also have it. I don't know if this is the same one, but KDE data visualization info, you can go here to look at it as well. But you need to talk to your CASES administrator for it to get access. It's very useful. And, you know, we've had these conversations with a few of our larger districts, and really, I kind of feel like maybe someone in each school, like a principal, should have access to it, because they know their students better than, you know, you guys do, unless you're in a very small district. So if you go in here and you see, oh wait, this student right here, no, they weren't sent to alternative school for 10 days, they were sent for 1 day, then, you know, you can go fix that. So that's the reason for this visualization. Okay, so is the INDR that I was talking about. In school removal, these are some things that were changed at the end of last school year, but I'm including them this year because since a lot of districts haven't been in school much this year, some of these may have been forgotten. Oh, thanks, Amanda. It actually says Tableau visualizations in the top of the index. So if you're looking for it, it says Tableau visualization because it's built in Tableau. Okay, so in-school removals include lunch, recess, and study periods. So that occurred a couple of years ago, but you guys, it sort of became official more recently. So in-district removal, that's what I was talking about, removed to a location other than the school where the student regularly attends, like an alternative program or another school within the district. It's for special education reporting purposes, it's an out-of-school removal. For all other purposes, for safe schools, for what they submit to OET, for what goes in the school report card, it's considered an in-school removal. So I just want to make you guys aware of that. A lot of districts haven't set that up yet, and they really should have, but again, a lot of districts really haven't been in school much this year. So we're going to try to sort of pay more attention to it going forward. So I just want to let you know it's out there. Okay, so exiting. Some things you need to know about exiting. You can get to the report by going to Kentucky State Reporting, Special Ed Exit Report, and then, excuse me, go to the QA SPED report. Or you can use the QA SPED report, I'm sorry, to find any students who maybe had exit data previous to this school year and maybe showing up on your report that shouldn't be. The special ed exit data beginning next year, Amber, yes, the detail report. Beginning next year, the exiting report is going to be the source for indicator 1 data and indicator 2 data, the sole source. This is a change that the federal government has made in how we report our data to them. So in the past, we've used the cohort rate, the 4-year cohort rate that was put out by the Office of Assessment and Accountability. Beginning this year, it's basically going to be students who graduated, students who show up on the exit report as graduated, divided by those who graduated, dropped out, aged out, or received diploma or received an alternate diploma. So it's going to be a very different calculation. The good news for this is now if a student takes 6 years to graduate, they're still going to count. The bad news is the data is going to look very different because it's a completely different source. Indicator 2 is going to be the same calculation. So it'll be students who dropped out divided by students who graduated with a diploma, graduated with an alternate diploma, dropped out, aged out. I think that was it. I think I said all those. So because of this, starting next year, we don't have time to get it in this year. We're actually we're looking at making some changes to how we collect the data as far as how we define the first day of school. Right now, a student has to be enrolled on the first day of instruction in the district to be put on the report. We're looking at changing that going forward because we want to make sure we're capturing all kids and not just those who are enrolled on the first day. That's going to take some time for us to put into place, but I just want to let you know that. And again, remember, exiting data is only students ages 14 through 21. So, if you're a district, if you're a K through 8 district, it's entirely possible that you won't have any students on this report. And this, again, this is where we're going to verify the data. This is the survey, and again, you should receive an email that says we got your data verification, so you can keep that. Okay, requirements for exiting. Now this is a big one. I've had a lot of conversations. I think this kind of last year was sort of overlooked because, last year was insane at the end of the school year. So I understand. But in order for a student to appear on this report, they have to have a special ed exit status and a special ed exit date for this school year. That is in the special ed fields in the enrollment tab. They're not going to appear on the report if those are not there. So you have to have a special ed exit status and a special ed exit date in the special ed fields in the enrollment tab. A lot of districts forgot to go in and put in the graduates at the end of the year. So last year, our graduation data was wonky. And then I had districts calling me saying, what's going on? Why did these students not show up on our yo-yo report? It's because it wasn't, that task wasn't completed. And I honestly don't know whose responsibility that is, if that's the DOS or the DPP or somebody different in each district. But it is important to make sure that gets done. Any students who are exiting that have received an alternate diploma at any time should have an exit status of 3 alternate diploma. So even if they age out, if they received their diploma 3 years ago and they're aging out now, go ahead and give them the alternate diploma exit status. It'll make your data look much better, I promise. So, and it's accurate. Now, if they don't receive the alternate diploma, then that would be an age out. And then this is a big one. It's time consuming for me every year and for you guys because you guys are wanting to get out of town and not having to deal with this. But there were a lot of students, especially this year, I think there were a lot of no-shows at the beginning of the year. Those students, if they had an IEP, you need to go in and put in the special ed exit status and special ed exit date for those students if they did not return anytime during the year. So if they moved and you got records requests for them, it should be moved on to continue. If you didn't get a records request and you have no idea where they went, it will be a dropout. Or if they previously received an alternate diploma and just decided not to come back for grade 14, then it would be an alternate diploma. But please make sure you do that this year, over the next few weeks. And yeah, we are making a report to catch this. So some of these may show up on the validation report when you first run the exit report. But we're also finding one that specifically catches no-shows who had IEPs. And Kim is asking, and I thank you for reminding me this, do you want it as a standalone report or added to the QA SPED error report? So would you want this separate so you can say, okay, this is the list of no-shows that had IEPs. I need to make sure they have special ed exit status and special ed exit date? Or do you want it to be in the QA SPED error report that already exists so you don't have to run a separate report? If you can throw that out in the chat, that'd be helpful. I should have made a survey for this. I will for the one I do on Thursday. We have 1 vote for standalone. All right, so if you have any thoughts about that, email me or Kim Walters. And if you think about it, okay, we got a lot of votes for standalone. I think that's probably the way it's going to happen. Yep. Okay, cool. Yeah, I started thinking this week that it might be helpful to have that so that you guys just know to run it, mid-year, maybe after the craziness of the beginning of the year slows down or whatever, and you just know to run it and go in and check it. So, okay, so again, just things to look at in the exit report. Only students ages 14 through 21 as of December 1st that school year. And then there shouldn't be any students who are DD, who have a developmentally delayed category, because they shouldn't be DD after age 8. So, and then if the student transferred to regular ed, if the sped exit status is 1, then it's okay if there's no end date or end status, because the student is just continuing, right? So, I mean, the end date or end status might be the last day of the school year in a CO1, but the student, that's okay to have that. But then all others should have an end date or an end status. If they don't, you might want to just check into it and see what's going on. And then English proficiency, any students who are not LAP will likely have blank cells for that column. Okay, so just reiterating what I said earlier. Beginning this school year, graduation and dropout data will come from the exit report, and only the exit report. So it just becomes more important that that data be accurate. And then in the future, we're looking at redefining the beginning of the reporting period so that we can make sure we catch more students. Of course, if we catch more graduates, we'll also catch more dropouts, but because, you know, we have to be the same across the board. Okay. Exiting questions, discipline questions, anything so far? Any other end of year kind of stuff? Okay, let's talk about child count.
Real quick,
Because-
can I
yeah.
jump in and ask a question? There's a report in campus called IEP versus enrollment. It's a very old report. Does anyone out there still use this report?
IEP versus enrollment?
Yes.
Never heard of that.
I know. I kind of just found it. I feel like we could tweak it to turn it into that other report, but if anybody's using it.
Well, if I've never heard of it, I doubt people are using it because they would have asked me questions about it. That's
Okay.
my,
Well,
you
if
know.
anybody does, just put it in the chat. Sorry, keep
Okay.
going.
okay, all good. So Amanda asked, does that mean indicator 1 and 2 on this year's determinations will be based on the exit report from the relevant year? That is a conversation that I need to have with leadership. Because we have the data to do it both ways. So that's a conversation I need to have with leadership. So maybe, so for us, for what I submit to the federal government and for my public reporting, the answer to that is yes. It'll be based on the exit report from the relevant year, and only on that. But we'll have to talk about determinations. So. Okay, so for a student to appear on child count, you know all these things are true. They have to be enrolled in the district on December 1, which means they actually have to have an enrollment on December 1. They can't have, you know, transferred from one, you know, exited one school on November 30th and enrolled in another school on December 2nd, which happens quite a bit in some larger districts, or when students move back and forth between districts. So they actually have to have the enrollment on December 1st. Otherwise, that student won't get caught. And these are things like things like that are things we can't catch ahead of time, right? Like, because, I mean, I can look at the data a week before and not know that these things are going to happen. So it's important that on December 1st, you're pretty tuned in to what's going on with your students. The student has to have a locked IEP on child count with a status of A, AR, or I on the child count date. which is December 1st.
I have a question.
Yep.
So I'm just not sure why it would count if they're active referred or marked as inactive.
Well, that's just how Infinite Campus is set up, honestly. So active referred means the student is active but has been referred for another disability.
Okay. So let's forget active referred, but if they're marked as inactive, locked IEP or not, they shouldn't be counting on child count.
Well, but remember, we run this report the Monday after. We run this report the Monday after December 1st. Okay, so let's say the student had an IEP on December 1st, but on December 2nd was released from special education, transferred to regular ed. Okay, when we run this on December 6th, which is the Monday after December 1st, you may have changed that IEP to inactive. I tell people not to, but I've had a lot of people concerned because it messes up other reports. So Infinite Campus is set up so it says if the student had, the date is what's more important than the status. Okay, so if the IEP ended on December 2nd, whether it was an active status or an inactive status, then that IEP is going to count. So the date is what's important. And then Greta pointed out that active referred could also be an out-of-state transfer as well. Thank you, that makes sense. So it could be that the student is active because they're running on their old IEP, on their incoming IEP, however you want to say that. But they've been referred for in Kentucky, for disability services in Kentucky. So did I answer that question? Okay. The student also has a valid locked Kentucky evaluation eligibility determination dated less than 3 years before the child count date. So they do have to have a valid locked Kentucky evaluation eligibility determination dated less than 3 years before. So if a student moves in from out of state, do I have that in here somewhere? I'm not sure if I do. Yeah, I do. I will cover that in a minute. Okay. So these are all things that have to be in place on December 1st. Students should not be placed in an excluded calendar. So if you have a student, let's say you have a homeschool student, and you have a homeschool calendar or a private school calendar that you put students in that's excluded, so they obviously don't show up on other reports, that's fine. But what you have to do is once that student becomes eligible for special education services and starts receiving services, you have to enroll that student in an active calendar. You can just put them in a current school calendar, however you want to set that up, but you have to enroll them in an active calendar. And they can be enrolled in, okay. Amber, can you explain your question? I'm sorry. Can you, I don't know if you can unmute. Oh, yes, they can have one P and one N enrollment. And that's a really good question. We had trouble with that last year. We've been working with Infinite Campus, so that doesn't happen this year or next year, however you want to say that. Because several districts had it set up that way. And it makes sense. Infinite Campus just wasn't, their logic was kind of backwards. Kim, can you explain just because they have an active status doesn't mean they'll be on the list? Can you explain what that means?
Just that there are other things that we check to make sure that they're on the list. So I think she was thinking that, you know, all the inactives would be pulled. And that's not the case. There are a lot of
Right.
other checks that they have to have before they're pulled on the list.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yes, and we should be able
I
to.
do get that they can have other checks. I just think that if they're inactive, they're not going to pull. I've never had someone that's inactive appear on that list, but it's okay. I'm good to go on.
Okay. Okay, 5 years old. If the student is 5 years old and in kindergarten, please make sure you're doing this. Choose a special education setting beginning with 6. 6A, 6B, 6 whatever. If the student is 5 years old and will be in preschool on December 1st. So everything, when you're setting up an IEP, you're thinking about the upcoming December 1st. If the student is going to be in kindergarten, it should be a 6 code. If the student is going to be in preschool, it should be a 3 code. So just think through that as you're doing the IEPs. And I know it's hard to think about that, but it'll save us a lot of time come November, because it was crazy last year. Hopefully we won't have the issues we had last year because it's been in place for over a year now. So we won't have the thing where the correct LREs weren't available. That won't happen. Okay. When a student moves in from out of state just before child count, and we're also running into this, I don't know if you guys are aware of the SDRR, Student Data Review and Roster, or something like that. It's an OAA report that people, DACs and BACs are looking at right now to see if students with IEPs are listed accurately so that they can say that they are receiving accommodations or not. And so these sorts of things have to be in place for that as well. There has to be an active a Kentucky IEP. Even if the student moved in last week with an IEP from Florida, I would recommend, so that that student can accurately be reflected as receiving, as using accommodations on the testing, I would recommend taking that information and putting it into an IEP, into a Kentucky IEP. You still have to determine Kentucky eligibility, but make sure the IEP is set up so that it can be read by Infinite Campus. Okay, so here's what you're going to do when a student moves in from out of state just before child count date. You're going to create a valid Kentucky evaluation eligibility determination document based on the information you received from the sending state. Do the best you can to include the dates they have. I understand those dates aren't always there. Just do the best you can. That's all I can say. And then create a valid Kentucky IEP document based on the information received from the sending state. So again, you know, do the best you can. Make sure you document in both of those that these are based on out-of-state IEPs, and this is for child count purposes or for SDRR purposes or whatever purposes you need. But just make sure you document clearly that, you know, that this is based on the out-of-state information. You have to date both of those before the child count date if they're going to be counted on child count. After that, you're going to go in, you still have to have a Kentucky eligibility determination. So that should be, so when you determine eligibility in Kentucky, that has to be an initial evaluation You're still required to provide the services from the out-of-state IEP, but when you're determining eligibility for Kentucky, you're going to use an initial evaluation. You're going to create a new evaluation document. You're not going to use the old one. You're going to create a new one because the old one has to be in place if the student's going to count on child count. And then you're going to create a new IEP. Okay, so we've got several questions. Is there a time frame for this? Vicki, if you're talking about just when to put the information into a Kentucky document, honestly, no. It just has to be in place before you need the report. So for SDRR, it probably needs to be in place now. For child count, it needs to be in place before December 1. So if the student moves in on December 1st, they can't be counted if those documents, no. The December 1 report looks at documents created December 1st or after. So if they have an IEP that started on December 1, that's fine. Even if they move, so yeah, if they move in on December 1st, if you don't get it created till December 2nd, but you date it December 1st, we're going to run this report on December 6th. So if it looks back and sees that the IEP was active on December 1st, it'll count. And still the mock documents like normal. Yes.
Amy, I was just asking because it says it must be dated before the child count date.
Oh.
So should it be before or on the child count date?
Yeah, it should be.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Thanks. That's okay.
Yeah, so I would also recommend when you have a student moving in from out of state that you upload the IEP. I'd recommend you do that first thing, just so everybody has it. You don't have to staple it, but you can if you want to the IEP, to the Kentucky version of it. But I would recommend that you upload it. And so you can just put in the basic information that you need and refer to that IEP if you want. Now, I don't know how that works for SDRR. I don't know. I don't think they go in and look at the IEP to see what accommodations are needed. I'm not sure. So if anybody runs into that problem, let me know, because I'm kind of curious myself. Okay, so when you release a student from special ed services, use amend the IEP to end date the IEP. If your district won't use amend, just know the student, it works better if you use amend. That's all I can say. I would also, I don't know if everybody is using the auto end. We had some trouble with that right around child count last year, which was infuriating to me. And to you guys, I'm sure too. It's fixed now. Hopefully we won't have that problem anymore. But if auto end isn't working, I would recommend going in and end dating the IEP if you start a new one. Just so you don't have those overlapping IEPs on December 1st, because that could cause some strange issues. Okay, so when I say mock documents, the question is, I thought we were not to create mock documents. I think a shell document is a better word for it, because really it's just the document that's in Infinite Campus for an IEP is the one you want to use, or for a Kentucky eligibility determination document. What I'm saying by mock documents that I don't want you to use is people can go in, there's a way you can go in and kind of pick and choose the editors you want to include and not include the others. Those don't work. So those won't be recognized by child count. They won't be recognized if a kid transfers. So you don't want to use those. So I think a shell IEP is a better word, or a shell document is a better word to explain what we're doing than a mock, because the mock might be like one created within the district, which will not be recognized. Okay. Okay, students must have enrollments on December 1st. Okay, I think I've covered this. All enrollment cleanups must be completed prior to December 1st to the best of your ability. This is one that we ran into this year, and we have to start reporting this to the federal government as well. We have to start reporting preschoolers who are receiving services in the home, which is not very many students, but what we have found as we've gone in and started looking at this data from previous years is that if a student is going to the school only for special education or related services, then instead of using 3X, you want to use 3P, service provider and location. 3X is if the student is kind of homebound and the people have to go in, the providers have to go in to provide the services into the home because the student can't get out of the house, basically. So if the student is only receiving services at the preschool, then the LRE setting should be 3P, service provider location. And I know not every district does that, and that's okay, but some do. And so, especially during COVID, there were all kinds of odd things happening there because preschoolers still needed services. So I just want to make you aware of that if you have that set up in an IEP. If the student is not sort of homebound, then you want to use 3P. Okay, so these are common errors, and this is back to the fake or mock documents that I was talking about. Again, that just means don't create your own. Use the ones that are already in there. LRE and age mismatch. Those students might show up on the child count report, but I can't include them that way. I can't report them that way, so they have to be fixed. So I'm going to be contacting you and asking you to fix it. So if you make a bunch of changes between December 1 and December 6th, you're kind of going to be on your own on those, but I'm going to, again, be asking you to fix them. So I just hope I can catch them all. PDFs is another one. So this is something I've run into with SDRRs. There are a lot more PDFs this time of year because students might be moving in, but you guys aren't thinking about child counts. So, you know, you don't need necessarily to put those in, but if you do have students receiving accommodations, then you probably do. So this year, KDE will run the child count report on December 6th, but any changes to records after December 3rd will result in changes to reporting by KDE. So what that means is once you wrap it up on December 3rd and go home, don't touch it. Don't let anybody touch it. I know that's impossible, but do your best so that when we run it on December 6th, we get a clean run. I would highly recommend that you guys, when you go in first thing in the morning on December 6th, that you run child count just so we can make sure what we have and what you have are the same. We will send child count results through that the validation report. We'll put those in. Actually, we'll be loading it probably starting in November. It'll be there for you to check. If you don't feel comfortable checking it until December 1st, that's fine. I'm not going to make you do it. Last year I kept pushing that, but this year I say just make sure your report is right, and then when you feel like it's right, then check it against the validation report, and make sure it's good to go there. KDE won't include any students with critical errors. I think we took that off, but there was like a include critical errors checkbox in child count, that means basically the critical errors are students who shouldn't be on the report. So we wouldn't include them. So for state exclude, students who have an enrollment type of special ed only, well, I said should not be marked state exclude. If you want to mark them state exclude, go ahead. I thought I had taken that out. Basically, the reason it says they should not be marked state exclude is because if a student is in the school building during school hours, if they're only there for special education services or whatever, you can generate seek funding for those students. But I've heard from most districts that that's such a small amount, it's not worth all the time it takes to clean up reports and get those students off of there if they're not marked state exclude. So however you want to set that up is fine with me. The count will ignore any students enrolled in calendars that are marked exclude. So if the calendars are marked exclude, the student won't be on there. Check the grade for your students within enrollments, because we've run into a lot of grade 97s. I think some districts were using that as a placeholder. So we were running into like grade 97s for 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, something like that. And that has been causing us a lot of problems. So please just make sure the grade is as accurate as you can get it, so that it matches the age. And then all students with private school service plans should have a setting of 6J. They shouldn't have 6A, they should be 6J if they have private school service plans. Okay, and I think the LRE in a private school service plan, if you go in and look at it, I think it's not visible, so you kind of have to run child count to see it. Okay, so here we go. What are you most concerned about? Here's another poll. And so basically you can just type in whatever you want. It'll come up as a word cloud. I hope it works. I haven't tried this one. Yes, there will be a BOY training. I'm working on scheduling that now, actually. It'll be in September. Probably about the second week. So is nobody entering anything, or is it just not working? Oh, I'm sad.
It looks like it's spinning.
Is it not activated? I'm typing in something. There we go. So if you go, is it not showing when you go to pollev.com/Amy Patterson 428? Well, okay. We'll try that again. Oh, there we go. Confusion. GMAP. Running reports. Okay, so it looks like personnel, GMAP, there's a lot of GMAP, safe schools. So maybe, safe schools has gotten big. So the good news is there won't be a lot of safe schools this year, because there really aren't a lot of, there's not a lot of data in the safe schools report this year. So when we're reporting Safe Schools data, just so you know, we report to the nearest half day, but really what we care about is 10 days or more or less than 10 days, right? So if it's 10.1, that's 10 days or more. I'm sorry, if it's more than 10 days. So if it's 10, it's not more, but if it's 10.1, it is more. So up to 10 days or more than 10 days. Okay, so it looks like GMAP and Safe Schools are the biggest piece of this. So maybe I'll talk to our GMAP people and see if they may want to do a training or something. See if that would be helpful. Okay. What SPED exit status do you use for a student that goes to homeschool when the district offers speech services for homeschool students? I'm debating between move known to continue or transfer to regular ed.
Someone is at the front door.
Sorry. I would say move known to continue because they continued to homeschool. If they decline services, that would be transferred to regular ed. And another question is, need clarification for SPED exit date reason. If a student has withdrawn whereabouts unknown, they should be considered a dropout. So yes, they are a dropout if their whereabouts are unknown until you find out they enrolled somewhere else. I know that stinks, but it is how it is. So, and we're working on the question that I've received from several districts about students who may be aging out, maybe graduating, and are coming back for comp ed services. We're working on that. That's a conversation we need to have still. It sounds like it should be easy, but I can tell you for those students, go ahead and exit them like you would normally exit them. So they'd get their G code. They would get the special ed exit status and the special ed exit date. The question is how they would be enrolled next year, and that's what we're working on. So go ahead and exit them as you normally would. The same is true for Senate Bill 128 students, if they're not special ed, if they're just coming back for Senate Bill 128 because they want to repeat the year. They are exited, if they're graduates, they are exited as a graduate normally would be, and then they just return. So Vanessa, we're working on a report to find students that were no-shows. I had this brilliant idea yesterday that I was gonna create, or day before yesterday, that I was gonna create this ad hoc report and just send it to you guys and let you set it up, but ad hoc doesn't recognize no-shows. So we're having to develop one in-house. But I'm hoping to get that to you by the end of the year. Definitely before the exit report is due, but hopefully in the next few weeks. Okay, if we only offer speech services to homeschool students and they refuse that service, will the exit be transferred to regular ed? Yes, that would be transferred to regular ed because they're refusing services. And you can mark the student eligible but refused if you want. Yep. These are good questions. Keep them coming. I know some of you have already done these, and some of you can't even think about it for about 2 more weeks. So we're kind of in a weird position here. But you know where to find me if you have questions. This is recorded, and I will be posting it, either this one or the one I do next Thursday, which will be the same training. I'll be posting it on our website so you can share it with your staff or whatever. Yeah, I think I can capture these. That's a good question. Let's see. Yeah, I'll figure it out. There's a way to download the chat, and I can't remember how to do it. But yeah, I'll figure that out and create a Q&A document. Thank you. Okay, so if you want ELA credit, you can get an 1.5 hour credit. Just go to this link, fill out the exit slip, and then it should, in theory, send you an ELA certificate. If it doesn't, let me know. But I hope it does. Okay, so this is the end of our training. If anybody else has any questions, feel free to email me or, whatever. And I will try to capture all these in a Q&A document so that I can send that out and probably address these in my next training. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good weekend, even though it's not Friday yet, but we can pretend.